Hello, everyone. I want to welcome you back for the Center for Health Affairs Leading Health Innovation series. My name is Andrew Mehta, and I'm the Data Hub Director at the Center for Health Affairs. For those of you joining us for the first time, the Center for Health Affairs is at Metropolitan Hospital Association, Cleveland, Ohio. We serve 36 hospitals across 9 counties, and our Leading Health Innovation webinars are a series of short talks with our partners that are real-time changing the digital and data landscape for all firms across all industries. This series of fireside chats brings forward some of the most innovative solutions on the market to help organizations build their data infrastructure with an efficient and impactful data pipeline to be able to realize all the benefits of the valuable data your organization collects on a daily basis. Today, we'll be discussing the next frontier of the digital transformation age. This next frontier for all organizations is the transition to the cloud. Only a short time ago, moving to the cloud was a goal for large firms we think of in the Fortune 100 space. But many innovators and technological advances have made the cloud possible for all organizations, big or small. After all, everyone wants to capture the value of the latest technology and not look back on missed opportunities. A few of the benefits of moving to the cloud are accelerated adoption of your products and services, accelerated growth of your offerings, scalable services, cost reduction, and security. The cloud will allow the leveraging of service routing, service discovery, and load balancing, which will lead to an accelerated pace of adoption for the products and services your organization provides. The accelerated growth of your offerings will come from AI, machine learning, and deep learning capabilities made possible by the cloud. Nowadays, we're talking about data in petabytes, exabytes, and so forth. So the cloud will provide that AI acceleration to be able to build, train, and deploy models as fast as possible and not wait months for your results. Scalable services are made possible by heavily leveraging virtualization, Kubernetes, virtual machines, and so forth. The cloud offers cost reductions, benefits when we move applications from on-prem and do not have to spend money on the IT technical expertise and the investment required with running those on-prem service. And security-wise, we all know as more and more users or IoT devices are being connected to the internet, we're seeing our security risks increase. The modern cloud offers security like never before that can keep all valuable data safe and sound. So cloud transformation for your organizations is not just about the underlying tech changes. It is about making your organization agile, enhancing a customer-centric focus, and augmenting your tool belt to better perform, not just keep up with this rapid digital transformation. These are all industry agnostic needs that require an industry agnostic solution that elevates everyone's performance. Joining me today with a solution that will enhance any cloud strategy is one of our Essentials partners, Jordan Feltz, the Vice President of Strategic Alliances at ORock Technologies. Jordan, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Andrew. We're super happy to be here and very excited about our partnership with CHA.
It's great. It's amazing being able to partner with you and seeing the transformation you're causing in the industry. And as I mentioned, moving to the cloud is the next frontier in our digital transformation. Can you give us a little bit more of insight about how ORock is leading the charge?
Absolutely, I'd love to. And you hit the nail on the head on a lot of the things that we're doing, that our customers and our partners are doing, and that we see value in us collectively working together. Things like security, speed, agility, flexibility. Something you didn't say in there is predictability. So I'll talk a little bit about that as well here as we go through. So let me throw a few slides up on the screen that we can go through just very briefly, and then we can kind of get into the core of our discussion here. Alrighty, so again, Jordan Feltz and I lead our strategic alliances here at ORock. And really, who is ORock? Well, ORock was founded about 7 years ago in the federal space as a government-grade, secure cloud service provider. What does that mean? It means that we are similar to that of the hyperscalers in the market that many of you partners out there know. We bring a similar model to bear, an operational expenditure cloud service model, a multi-tenant world, a highly secure first world, but in particular, highly compliant and security enabled as it relates to the federal government's requirements, compliance, and needs. But what does that mean beyond the federal government? Well, although we were founded in the federal government about 7 years ago, we have diversified our portfolio of customers and partners pretty significantly over the last few years. To where now we're beyond just the federal space in the commercial world, state, local, education, healthcare, with our partnership with CHA, financial, other technology providers, oil and gas, media and entertainment, retail, industries of the like, that are looking for all of those unique attributes that the public cloud brings that you mentioned earlier. That's what we're here to offer in a very compliant first world. Couple of the value points that we bring to the table that are unique to the ORock cloud versus some of those hyperscalers that are out there in the market today are things like our secure network. We have our own private fiber backbone that actually terminates layer 2 inside of our cages within our data center. What does that mean to the layperson? It allows us to provide a very predictable price model. Well, Jordan, you think, okay, going to public cloud, shouldn't all of that be this operational expenditure predictable model? Well, one would think it should be, but unfortunately, it's really not. That predictability that we bring to the market is not as rampant as it quite frankly should be. I mentioned our compliance model, being built in the federal space. We offer a FedRAMP moderate baseline cloud offering. What does that mean? It means we have over 325 security controls at the baseline of our cloud offering so that we satisfy all of FedRAMP moderate capabilities and needs in the federal government, but we're also able to offer that into the commercial markets beyond that of the federal space. We also have a FedRAMP high ready cloud, so even more security controls that's built for the federal government in mind. How do we do some of these things? Well, we're an open source cloud. Our cloud's built on OpenStack. We actually just released OpenStack Wallaby. We're the only FedRAMP compliant cloud on OpenStack in the States, and we've got a tight alignment with Red Hat and HPE as well. We're an HPE Gold partner on their service provider world, and our cloud is actually built on HPE's Gen 10 hardware. So being tightly aligned with these leading providers in the market allows us to then scale beyond just what they can do individually and how we do it in a multi-tenant or even single-tenant environment as a cloud service provider. But how are we different, right? Like that's kind of who we are. How are we different? Well, I like to start on this slide in particular and treat from right to left. Our people is how and why we are different. I like to call our knock and sock our unsung heroes. Our engineering bench is extremely proficient and extremely knowledgeable. And one of the best parts about them is the ability for our partners and customers to have dedicated access to them. Yes, we've got help desk capabilities and ticketing and the like, but we are going to be there when a customer or partner needs us. It doesn't matter if you're the smallest customer of ORock or the largest customer, you're going to have us from start to finish. If you're going through a pilot or a POC or a demo, all the way through a customer we've had since our inception, you're going to have dedicated support. And on top of that, it's US-based, staffed by US citizen support 24/7, 365. And again, that's all inclusive of our cost model on the front end. So no hidden fees on the back end. Again, I mentioned open source, so no vendor lock-in. If you're trying to build and deploy an application or a workload, you can test and dev that in the ORock cloud or test and dev it elsewhere and bring it to the ORock cloud very seamlessly with our open source APIs. And I harped on the price predictability model earlier. It's critical for our customers and partners to know what they're paying for and that they're not going to have a surprise bill at the end of the month. Like we so often see with phone bills and others. And the far left of this slide, compliance. I mentioned this, Indri. Compliance is at our core. This is table stakes for us. I mentioned FedRAMP moderate and high, DoD impact levels 2 to 5. We're having the Center for Health Affairs partnership, HIPAA, high tech. I mentioned some of the financial compliance, PCI, DSS, GDPR overseas in the EU. Compliance is at our core, and it's fundamental to what we do as a cloud service provider. So I'd like to take a quick minute before we finish up and dive in a little bit about one of our flagship partners and customers, the National Institutes of Health and Chesapeake Systems up in the DC area. The NIH and specifically the Department of Radiology turned to ORock because of the lack of predictability in their pricing that they were receiving from a large hyperscaler. They were storing tons of data, as you mentioned, very large numbers, right? Petabytes, exabytes, and so forth and so on, of data that is now being consumed daily, if not hourly, with all these devices that are connected to the internet. And so the NIH was storing these image files, X-rays, MRIs, so forth and so on, in a large public cloud provider, and they were accessing these files on a regular basis for research purpose, medical purpose. You can think of it, right? They needed to see the imagery. Well, every time they brought those files down out of the cloud or even put them back up or moved them from east to west or did something with them, they were ringing a toll. They were paying a tax. And it was something that wasn't advertised to them. They didn't know about it until they got their bill at the end of the month. And it was significant. So much so that our partner, Chesapeake Systems, brought in ORock Cloud, and we were able to help the NIH move a sizable amount of that data out of that large public cloud into the ORock Cloud, a government-grade secure cloud service provider with a predictable price model that is extremely competitive on the front end and no egregious fees on the back end. And so the result ended up being them having direct access to their data and not having to worry about paying extra fees on the back end when they wanted to access that data. And what does this mean really into the market? So I'm excited to say here today that we just launched our new cloud assessment tool, which allows our partners and customers to save money and maximize performance. Okay, what does that really mean in the grand scheme of things? Well, look, as I mentioned, the price predictability that the public cloud brings should be standardized, but it's not. A traditional public cloud doesn't show cost in real time. Your resources that you are spinning up and spinning down are not factored into the total cost, and they're complex and changing price structures all the time. There's a lot of these egregious fees that come out of nowhere. So our cloud assessment provides visibility and an understanding into your current public cloud spend, while also offering recommendations on how to curtail some of those extra costs or those egregious fees and maximize those resources with the ORock Cloud. And then provide a clear path on how to save money while also repurposing that cloud budget and that cloud spend into other areas that maybe you've been trying to deploy a project somewhere else that you hadn't been able to do because your cloud invoice has been so high at the end of the month. So we're excited to bring this to market through our partnership and bringing that with Center for Health Affairs as well. So Andrew, I know that was super short and sweet, but I did want to at least go through a little bit about who ORock is, how we came to be, and most importantly, how we're looking to partner with y'all at the Center for Health Affairs.
Thank you, Jordan. That was fantastic and amazing for a fireside chat that brings everyone up to speed relatively quickly to give them a flavor of what ORock is doing and how you're changing the game. So as I was listening to you, I'm thinking more about the downsides of the digital age, how going online, we get all these risks associated. The biggest attack that comes to mind for this year is the Colonial Pipeline attack. The reason I think about that is I personally bought an extra few gallons that week in anticipation of a shortage.
I did as well.
We always have the steady stream of cyber attacks we hear about on a daily to weekly basis. You mentioned the government-grade security around ORock's offerings. Does this mean that you're only giving that part of the service just to the government?
It's a great question. And look, these cyber attacks are real. And for many folks out there, it's meaningful because you're either having your stuff stolen, or you're having to pay some hefty fee to get whatever that stuff is back. And we fundamentally believe that shouldn't happen. So our security is built from the ground up with, our cloud is built from the ground up with security in mind, built for government stringent requirements. But to your question about, does that only apply to government entities that are using the ORock Cloud? Absolutely not. We've built a cloud that is accessible and available to all customers and all partners. And so that FedRAMP moderate baseline that I mentioned is available to all customers, whether you're a government entity, a healthcare entity, or a retail shop, or a mom and pop pizza stand that you just want security first in your cloud offering. You have that with the ORock Cloud.
That is great to hear, because especially being in the healthcare space, thinking about the HIPAA requirements, every project we kick off, the first question is the security and the risk that brings along with that. And thinking about your partnership with the NIH, what exactly were they looking for when they found ORock? And how do you help them further that solution?
I was trying to cut you off there a little bit. Yeah, no, it's a good question, and I'm glad we were able to talk about it, because I know that what y'all are doing with Center for Health Affairs and your Essentials group and your partnerships are not just healthcare. I understand that, but to your point around security, and then my conversation around predictability earlier is really what I wanted to show here. So the NIH came to us with our partner Chesa, as I mentioned, looking for a predictable pricing model for their cloud storage of these very large imaging files, while also maintaining that government grade security. And we were able to checked all the boxes for them. They were able to migrate their storage off of a large public cloud provider today, they were getting charged, hefty fees on the back end without knowing what those fees were going to be, because one month they may touch files more often than not than another month. And so there was no predictable model in their pricing. So they were looking for that predictability while also looking for that security. As I mentioned, they wanted to be able to access and touch their data as frequent or infrequent as they want to. And we at ORock fundamentally believe that your data is your data. We just happen to be a repository to where you store it, whether that be compute resources, workloads, what have you, or just pure data storage like the NIH was doing. We want you to have access to that at all times and not have to worry about what it's going to cost you to touch it, or dare I even say fully repatriate. Now, we don't want somebody to completely take something out of the ORock cloud, but we're not going to charge them if they were to do that. And that's a unique value that the NIH found on top of our FedRAMP moderate cloud baseline and all of our security controls that go into that.
I'm pretty sure with your recent AI accelerator that you guys launched, they're going to see some extra value with the deep learning models they can perform on that imaging and the data they have around that.
Yeah, we didn't get into that too much today because it is very new, but we are very excited about our partnership with SambaNova and the ability that they bring to the table as a cloud offering via the ORock cloud, to have access to predetermined modeling with AI and ML imaging, like visual and recommending and artificial intelligence science, having that in a consumable or an operational expenditure model via the ORock cloud, and being able to take those massive files, those imagery files, and being able to legitimately take a look at an MRI and have a artificial intelligence review that and say, hey, look, there's something here that maybe the naked eye didn't see originally, is really powerful. And we're super excited about that partnership and what we can do together. In particular, what we can do with y'all at CHA.
Yep. Everything you're doing is ground changing, and we're very happy with everything. And I wanted to have one more question before we finish our fireside chat for today, because we talked about security, we talked about predictability, about pricing that you mentioned, and the costs are really one of the reasons why many leaders would shy away from thinking about cloud architecture for the moment. And part of that is, as you said, there's extra fees that can come out of there from other providers. Can you expand a little bit more on that for us?
Absolutely. I mentioned our cloud assessments, and it's real. It's we see it every single day. Our partners, our customers are talking about it. The NIH is a perfect example of that. With our new tool, our cloud assessment tool that we just launched, that we would love to have more conversations with you and your partners about. We are seeing that there are more than just things like data egress fees that are being charged on the back end, things like API calls or storage IOPS with performance with storage, or professional services. I mentioned our unsung heroes with our white glove support. That's inclusive in our compute costs and our storage costs. We don't have any hidden fees on the back end for that. You don't have to be, some extremely large customer of ours to get that level of white glove support, where in the big, large public cloud providers you do. And so having that understanding and knowing month in, month out that I am paying what I agreed to pay and what I'm deploying, as opposed to some hidden thing on the back end, is a real surprise. That surprising to us. It's not a surprise that other folks are so frustrated about it, and we don't want to surprise people with those fees and those costs. And so having that predictability from a customer's perspective is key in making that move to the public cloud. You want to take advantage of the digital transformation capability inside the public cloud. You want to take advantage of the AI ML workloads that we just talked about. You want to take advantage of just pure OpEx versus CapEx from a budgeting perspective. Well, let's do that with the ORock cloud and the predictability on the price model that we bring to the table.
Wow, you hit on so many points. Like right now, unfortunately, we come in on the time. It is a fireside chat. I want to keep this conversation going, but for everyone, I want to thank Jordan for joining us today. It's always a pleasure. And please, there's some extra material that we've made available for you to download below. Please download that, get some more information out there. Reach out to us, reach out to Jordan about the amazing opportunities to help your organization move to the cloud in the best way possible. Jordan, thank you very much.
And Dree, thank you so much for having us. The last thing I'll say is we're super excited about this partnership, and we look forward to doing some really great things together. If anybody has any questions, my contact information will be available. jfeltz@orocktech.com, partner team at orocktech.com, or sales at orocktech.com. We're here to help, and we're here to walk you through your cloud journey.
Thank you, Jordan. Everyone else, please keep an eye out as more information is to come on our next fireside chat in our Leading Health Innovation series. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.